Hey, how's it going everybody? In this video I'm going to be showing you my modern mono green deck. This deck can be picked up for right around $50 right now. This definitely isn't like a tier 1 competitive deck. However, for the price of the deck along with the power level you're getting with it, I think it's pretty good. This was one of the first decks that I first built when playing modern because I didn't want to commit too much money to it, but I also wanted to have some fun. This deck can be very easily upgraded and we will get into that later into the video. So let's get into the actual deck tech. One thing to keep in mind is this is completely customizable. Don't feel like you have to run the exact same cards that I run. Mono green has evolved a lot over the last few years, and there's a lot of great options, and I'll get into some of those later in the video. There are two main ways I would consider playing this deck, and that's with or without Elvish Mystic. The reason to run Elvish Mystic is because there are a lot of 3-drops in green that are crazy good. Ramping those out on turn 2 is really hard for your opponent to deal with. The reason to not run Elvish Mystic is because if you don't have the 3-drop to back it up, where you draw this card later in the game, it's usually not that good. So 3 Elvish Mystic because the 3-drops in this deck are stupid good. The reason why I'm not running 4 is because if I have Elvish Mystic, great. If I don't, oh well. I don't feel like I need this card to assemble my plays, but if I have it, it's great. If I don't, oh well. I think 3 is fine, but 4 is open to debate. Experiment 1, this is the reason to play mono green in my opinion. What a fun card. Every time you play a bigger creature, this thing gets bigger and gets counters. It's also 1 mana, so you can very easily, if you get this on turn 1, oh, that's a fun game. Definitely run 4 of those. I've seen some people run like 3 or even 2. I don't really see why you would run less, but hey, people do what they want. That's all for the 1-drops, which is kind of surprising. Some other quick options though, if you wanted to run a card like Young Wolf, this card's not that bad because it's a 1 mana 1/1 with Undying, so it could come back a little bit larger. I wouldn't say it's that good, but it is okay. Next up, we're running 4 Strangleroot Geist. Love this card. It's a 2 mana 2/1 haste and it has Undying, so it comes back as a 3/2. This card's a very explosive turn 2. Next up, we have 4 Wolfpack Leader. This is probably the more, I guess, one of the most expensive cards in the deck. Each copy is around $3, however, you kind of need it. For 2 mana, it's a 3/3, great. However, whenever this attacks, if you attack with creatures with total power 3 or greater, you get to draw a card. It could also be a 5/3 with Trample. If you really don't want to spend that amount of money, this is the OG copy, or the OG card. It's a 2 mana 3/3, just without the effect, but you kind of need the draw effect. I'm running 1 Avatar the Resolute. It's a 2 mana 3/2 reach trample, and it enters the battlefield with +1 counters on it for each other creature you control with the counter on it. So things like Experiment 1 and Geist, and even this card, the Troll, all those cards can help get this card to be bigger. I think 1 to 3 copies is fine. I think 2 is probably optimal. But I just didn't have enough space, I think, in the deck right now, so I'm just running 1. You can run more in the sideboard though, because again, it does have that reach if you're worried about flyers and stuff, because this deck also doesn't have that much removal. I should probably mention this at the beginning, but this deck, you're just swinging, going, and praying. You're not really trying to, I guess, outgrind your opponent. You're just trying to win the game as fast as possible. It's a really good card, but I don't think you need 4 copies of it. Next up, we're running the Troll, the Barkhide Troll. It's a 2 mana 3/3. Or I guess it's technically a 2 mana 2/2 with a counter on it. You could pay 1 mana, remove the counter, and it gains hexproof to the end of turn. Kind of a nice card because the hexproof does come in handy because your opponents are going to try and target these cards as much as possible. Having any types of protection is going to be helpful. I run 1 Groundbreaker. This card is dumb. It's a 3 mana 6/1 trample haste. You sacrifice the end of the turn. It's just a card your opponent's not going to be expecting. It's a surprise factor and it's spicy. We're running 3 of these Old Growth Trolls. It's a 3 mana 4/4 with Trample. It seems great because when it dies, you return to the battlefield as an enchantment and you can basically tap it and you get this thing back, or you get to pay 2, or you get 2 to your mana pool. 3 is great though. I think 4 is a little bit too much. Next we run 3 Steel Leaf Champion, 4 Steel Leaf Champion. Probably the best 3-drop in the game. It's a 3 mana 5/4 and it can't be blocked with creatures with power 2 or greater. This card's a little pricey at maybe $2, $2.50. But again, we're playing modern. This is super cheap. If you really don't want to spend the money on the Trolls and the Steel Leaf Champs, you could play this guy. This is the OG. 3 mana 4/5 as a vanilla creature. It's a big boy. It's probably like 10 cents. But it's not really comparable to Steel Leaf Champion. That rounds out the monsters. Again, feel free to play any monsters you want because green has access to a lot of good cheap creatures. Let's head on over to the other things. I'm running 4 Rancor. This is a card that probably shouldn't have been printed, but it's a 1 mana. Your enchant creature gets +2, and when this dies, you get to return it back to the hand. Also, the creature does get trample. Super good. I've seen people run less than 4, which is, I guess, understandable, but I want to see this card as often as I can. This really helps push for game. Just have to make sure we're playing enough creatures that we can constantly reattach it if the creature does die, because it doesn't offer any protection. Running 4 of the Vines of the Vastwood. For 1 mana, our creature can't be targeted by spells or abilities. And if we kick it for 1 extra mana, it gets +4/+4. How dumb is that? It's so good. Definitely one of the best protection cards, as well as a push for more damage. I do run 2 Blossoming Defense, kind of similar, but it's 1 mana and target creature is hexproof and +2/+2. The only difference here is they both give hexproof, but typically the +4 is just so much better than +2. But I like to have another option. Do run 2 Aspects of the Hydra. My original build, I would run 4 of these, but this is for 1 mana, target creature gets +X to the end of the turn, where X is your devotion to green. So if you have Rancor out, Experiment 1, and one of the 3 mana big boys, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's 5 green symbols on the field. That's going to give you, or give a creature +5/+5 for 1 mana. Again, it doesn't offer protection, but it pushes for games so easily. The only removal in the deck we're running is Thrash and Threat. Target creature control deals damage to its power to target creature planeswalker you don't control. Not the absolute best, but it's just some sort of removal in case we need it. Typically, if you want removal, you're going to add some white to the deck for Path to Exile and like Swords to Plowshares and stuff like that. You could also try splashing a little bit of red if you want lightning bolts and things like that, but for the cheapest cost, going mono green is probably the best. And for the lands, I run 2 main lands, the Lair of Hydra. For X and green, this land becomes XX Green Hydra. And then we run 17 forests, so keeping it nice and simple. You can add some fetch lands and stuff like that to help, I guess, thin out the deck. But for me, I'm just keeping it at that for now. Let's go over some other stuff. It's fine. Some sideboarding cards. Weather the Storm could be good. This sideboard is going to be more of a general idea. I'm not going to necessarily say you should definitely run these. It's going to be dependent on the meta you're playing with and in the decks you think you're going to be scared to play against. Play this against Burn. You're going to gain a bunch of life. Beast Within is an answer to every problem. Shifting Ceratops is a little too expensive maybe for 4 mana, but you're getting a 5/4, can't be countered, and protection from blue. As a sideboard card, I think this is a good replacement. Thrun the Last Troll is also in the sideboard. We'll get it right over here, which is arguably probably the best card against counter decks. It is at like $3-4, so a little bit expensive, but 4 mana, 4/4, can't be countered, can't be target spell abilities, and you can regenerate them. Would definitely add one of those, or one of each of these to the sideboard if you're going to be facing a lot of counter decks or blue decks. Thrun's probably the better option. Return to Nature for artifacts, enchantments, or you can exile a card from a graveyard. Really versatile, instant speed, 2 mana, green spell. Have another Blossoming Defense in case. Dryad Militant's good because it's a 1 mana 2/1. If an instant or sorcery be put into a graveyard from anywhere, exile instead. Really good against your Murktide decks. Got a Scavenging Ooze. You could probably even mainboard this. It's a little bit slower of a card. However, it does also pair well with the avatar of the Resolute. So if you are running more Scavenging Ooze or this, it might be better synergy to run both. Scavenging Ooze, again, is a good card, but it's not as explosive. Definitely good against the graveyard decks. Kitchen Finks for more burn and stuff. Gains your life and it comes back, has Persist. Dampening Sphere is pretty good for playing against a lot of like Tron and stuff. Nature State for more artifact removal. And Choke because I don't like blue. Some other cards I would consider that are a little more expensive but potential upgrades. Veil of Summer, amazing for the sideboard. Shuts down every blue and black deck. Also offers a lot of protection for your creatures, which the deck really needs. Collector Oof for any of the artifacts, also a creature. Put some pressure on your opponent. Got some Hex Drinker, I think a great card for this deck. It doesn't go too well with the aspect of the Hydra for the devotion, but this card could be quite insane and really shut down your opponent. Treetop Village, I think this could be a good addition for a man land or a creature land. Just becomes a 3/3 with trample. Force of Vigor, I mean the obvious choice here, but I think this thing's pretty expensive. Dismember, I think Beast Within's pretty good too, but this could be cast for 1 mana and your life isn't that important because you're a pretty fast deck. Answers a lot of problems. If you really don't like your creatures getting countered, this could be a good option too. Galta's a pretty great card to add to this deck. Actually did have it in this deck, but I took it out because just, again, I wanted to get it under $50, but super fun. You could run the Indomitable. You're typically going to have a creature with power 4 or greater, so this thing's almost always online. If you're expecting more grindier games and you can actually protect your creatures, this could be a great card. Got another Militant. This guy's another cheap card you could add. Didn't really like him that much, but it's another option. Same thing with this. I'm not going to read these cards off, but at least I'll show you in case you're interested in looking further. This card's a little expensive, but target 1/1 gets +1 and +2 to the end of turn. So if you ever experiment 1 out and you remove the things that regenerate, it just becomes a 1/1 again. You can at least use this so it gets buffed. Or if you're running more Mystic Elves or Elvish Mystic and the Arbor Elves or something like that, like the 1/1s, this could come in handy. I would probably add that if you're going to go that route. Nature's Claim, just some more artifact removal. Here we get some Arbor Elves. Scale Up could be a good card too. Target creature becomes 6/4 worm. You're not going to overload it in modern. We don't barely even run that many lands. You could run more Groundbreakers as more surprise and fun factor. The Young Wolves, I would typically not advise going this route. I would just add more Llanowar Elves or something like that to get your 3 drops out in the field faster. But it's a possibility if you want to be like that. Wildborn Preservers could be not that bad either. Flash Reach, 2 mana 2/2. This could get bigger as well, but it's not, I'm going to say it's amazing. Could always add more Blossoming Defenses. Option of Baloth's a good choice for playing against decks that are going to make you discard. There's one card I'm actually forgetting, or just remembered, is Heroic Intervention. That card's insane because it protects every permanent, and it's only 2 mana. Also is a little pricey, but again, these are options if you want to further upgrade the deck. Anyway though, that is the build. The deck is very customizable and upgradable. Don't feel like you need to copy exactly what I did because it's probably not the most optimal for you. Definitely play around, super cheap deck. It's a lot of fun. Kind of brainless though. Again, you're just swinging, you're going in, doing as much damage as you can as quickly as possible, but it's a great time. Thanks for watching. Take care everybody. See you later.